This is it. This go-home show is for the last PLE of the year. And I actually botched this thing not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times. I botched it 5 times. 5 times. Legitimately, I botched 5 times. And it was repeating the same thing, the last show before the PLE. And I'm thinking, why did I keep doing that? And I'm thinking, what have we gotten for this entire year? That's what this comes down to, ladies and gentlemen. What have we gotten the entire year? Have we gotten compelling TV? For WWE, in most cases, yes. Due to the fact that at this point, the WWE only cares about this more than anything else. So if you've heard JD talk, he literally does get it pretty on point. Alex does not. Alex, after what I've seen when he talked about Raw, when he talked about the last pay-per-view, Survivor Series, which was not that great. Honestly, it wasn't. But he believed it was the best stuff that WWE has put on for quite a while. He thinks the only thing that was above it was Elimination Chamber, it was good, but it wasn't great. It was not great. It was just good. But he's fine with it. But then I had to think about, I'm looking at the two opposing. It's kind of like having one and then the other on your shoulder. If you're Kronk, if you've seen the Emperor's New Groove, you got one Kronk on one side, one Kronk on the other, and you have to decide which side are you on, or are you in the middle. I look at it in this respect. If you legitimately look at WWE in a whole, forgetting that it's Silver Lake, if you look at it as a wrestling promotion, they have not done very good work for the last, 7 to 8 months. The work has been basically stagnant. It has. We've been getting stagnant content from WWE. They've only been willing, and I've stated this multiple times, doing the same people in the same spots. They don't want anyone other than people that can give the most merchandise sales consistently. They only care about making money. Every pay-per-view, PLE, has been about advertisement, has been about making as much merch as possible. And how expensive are the tickets? I don't even want to think about the people that went to Elimination Chamber, and then WrestleMania, then SummerSlam, and then Survivor Series, how much they had to fork out just to get close seats, which used to be $1,000. And that's just $1,000. They've now made it like UFC, where you got to pay thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars to even get near halfway to the first seats, let alone the first seats that can be multiple tens of thousands of dollars. So WWE has not been focused on doing, as I've stated multiple times, doing wrestling. They're only using wrestling to make money. They're not really making wrestling because they love it. That's the truth. That's what happens when your company is taken by a corporation. They don't care about the love and care you put in the product. They only care about the money you can make from the product. That's the truth. The service from the product, the money you make from the product is all that matters to them. So what did we get here? We got a couple of matches that really didn't feel very important. They didn't. They understand had some connection to certain things, but they didn't really feel important. Thea Hale versus Ariana Grace. Now, we're seeing Stacks with Ariana Grace. The story between Stacks, I believe sooner or later is going to be Stacks dealing with a Santino Marella. It's coming. It's coming where they're going to have a match. Sooner or later, they're going to have a match over Ariana Grace. Ariana is going to be convinced by Stacks that he is the only man for her. And sooner or later, Santino is going to have to face his probably future son-in-law due to the fact of how bad things get. That's the way it looks. So I can understand why they're still somewhat prominent. But seeing Thea Hale with Joe Henry, who is an Iron Survivor, I can understand why that happened. But here, we get Thea winning in a match against Ariana Grace. Let's make this clear. Who is the better wrestler between the two? Is it Ariana or is it Thea Hale? Thea is better than Ariana. But Ariana does have a little bit more character. It's not just because she got a great body. It does because technically speaking, because of her interaction with Stax and her father, is what people see the most of. So she has a little bit more of character than you're going to see of Thea Hale, who's more wrestling. And yes, she's perky, she's plumpy, she's silly, but what is going to make people care? Is it that you're great in the ring? And Ariana is not as good as Thea. Thea is a little bit better. No, it's your personality and what's around you. And you got Stax that's with you. And you got Santina Morella, who's going to be sooner or later in a situation with Stax and Ariana. So that's what people are going to see. She won, but I don't know what they're going to do with Thea. I'm very worried that eventually they're just going to let her go. Because I don't see what they're going to do with her on the main roster. I just don't. I don't know what they're going to do with her in Raw, and I definitely don't know what they're going to do with SmackDown. Either she's going to go down to Evolve, or she's going to stay on NXT for who knows how many more years before they finally let her go. Moving on, Josh Briggs and Tavion Heights. Their feud is still going on. Beating each other up outside the ring, beating each other up inside the ring, and eventually Josh Briggs wins. But what does he really win? The question is, what are they going to do with Josh? I don't know. As another person, like, when you look at Thea Hale, you wonder what are they going to do with her if they throw on the main roster. Because I don't know. I like Thea. She's actually not that bad of a wrestler, and she's not that bad of a character. She's actually worked on the character. Then I look at Josh Briggs. They put a lot of investment in him. He worked with Jensen. And the question is, he's been by himself for a while. He worked with Iramura, and I don't know what they're going to do with him now. Either they throw him up to the main roster, and honestly, I don't even know what they're going to do with him. Or they'll keep him on NXT for another year or two, or they're going to release him. This is another person that I just feel like I'm not sure what they're going to do with him. He needs to be something more than what he is. He's a good talker. He's a good wrestler. He has a decent look, especially with the skull on his shoulder with some CO2 in his and that damn thing to make the smoke. But then you wonder, what is WWE going to do with them? What are they going to do with Thea? What are they going to do with Josh Briggs? Kind of like what happened with Karrion Kross. Killer Kross now. It looks like they may have plateaued and they don't know what they're going to do with them now. Either they're going to just keep them as they are for another year or two, or they're going to release them. So that's what I feel. Tavion, I'm not sure if they're going to get rid of him yet. It's still pretty early for him. Like Miles Bourne, the same thing. But I do have my thoughts on Miles Bourne because of what happened at the end. Next, due to the fact of the beginning of the show that we had the women there talking about Iron Survivor, we get this match. And I might as well go to the part where they were talking. Did I find the talk between Soruka, Grace, that was Kendall Gray, not Grace, Gray, yeah, and Jordan Grace, Lola Vice, and let me give it like this. The person who spoke the best there was Kiana Jordan. And she got the most reaction. I had to think about it for a minute, how big a reaction she got, because there's a point where you have this reaction, and you got this reaction. And when it comes to Kiana Jordan, she is easily here, somewhere around here, easily. She's not here, she's here. So the person that got the most reaction is her. And that's a good thing, because it shows she's managed to connect with the audience as a heel. And as you see from everyone there, and Jordan Grace is easily next to her in reaction. People like Jordan Grace. The question here is, what does this really mean going into Iron Survivor? Now, of course, I look at Soruka, who had a situation with Zarya where Zarya is pissed off at her that she wasn't there for her match. And she made it very clear before her match started that she wasn't going to be there either. And there's just frustration between the two. You got Zarya, who's been a good friend, and Soul pretty much ripped out her soul. Legitimate, let's be honest. Soruka has cared about Soruka more than she cared about Soruka and Zarya, because Soruka want to keep those damn titles, and to a certain extent use Zarya to do that. Even though she didn't ask her to do it, she knew the only thing she had to do was just tell Zarya, stay in the back while I work. Just stay in the back while I work. and not be at ringside, and she could have done it all by herself. And Soul, of course, would get pissed, but she would be understanding. But Zarya has been there all the time and saved her from getting her ass destroyed by a Blake Monroe. Let's make it very clear. And she wasn't on the show. She'll probably be at New Year's Evil or the PLE. But the thing here is that what are we getting from Soul? She had her own story along with, well, let's make it very clear. Once Fatal Influence came out and started that fight, you know that Soul was going to be saying something because you wanted to make it very clear that it was important that she's going to get that title if she can. Because that's what she really wants. If she can't get the Speed title back or the North American Championship, she wants that world title. So everybody there had their moment. You're seeing a little bit of Kendall Gray, and I'm still not feeling Kendall. She doesn't have a great character, kind of like with Tyra Steele's. No character, just the Olympian gimmick, which is not a great one. They don't know how to sell it very well. For me personally, I know other people will be fine with it, but not me. But the match itself, did we have a good match between the women? It wasn't bad. Admittedly, when you see all these women working in there, the problem I felt that it still felt very formulaic. And of course, you got a 6-woman tag. There's going to be formula in there. There's going to be constant spots and making sure that everyone gets their stuff in. But you're looking at 2 women. One of them is a former gymnast. The other one also did wrestling. And you could see they kept falling back heavily on both their techniques in this schmoz. And that can show as being very telegraphed in certain ways because they have to get people in spots that can work. Now, did I think the Soul Snatcher looked good once she won that match? Yes, it was. Soul pinning JC James with that Soul Snatcher looked very lovely. But now what's the question? And that was before what happened outside the ring. But now what's the question of Soul? What is Soul going to be doing next? We got the answer. Because Zarya decided to spear the hell out of a Kendall Gray because of what she was talking before. She didn't go after Lola Vice. She didn't go after Ren Sinclair. She went after Kendall because Kendall was saying, I got your back. If she don't, I got it. That's what started it. And then you see Soul shoving a Zarya going like, what the hell's your problem? And they're arguing between each other. This is it. This is the beginning of the end. And the question is going to be, how will this feud start? Because they're angry at each other right now does not mean they're not still friends. The question is, how at the Iron Survivor Challenge match are you going to see something happen with Zarya and Soruka? I'm not saying that Zarya will come out to the match. I'm just saying that when it is done, either before or after the match, something's going to happen. Now, something could happen during the match, but I think it will be something before or after. I just don't know what. Now, the match I didn't care anything about. Out the Mud versus Chase U with Dixon and Connor. Let's make this very clear. Do I care about Dixon and Connor? No, because the story of Chase U made no sense anyway. Didn't we have Ridge Holland disband Chase U? He disbanded it permanently, but they wanted to bring Connor and Dixon in, so they needed to have Andre Chase to be their teacher again, supposedly. And I'm like, I'm not feeling it. Chase U should not be back. Chase U shouldn't be back. They didn't need to bring back Chase U. I've never felt Connor or Dixon as characters, as a tag team. I just felt like they were afterthought. And they're just using Andre Chase to try and make them feel relevant. And then I look at Out the Mud, Price and Nima. And I think these guys could be something, but now they don't have Jada Parker by their side. That was their mouthpiece. And they could talk, but they felt more substantial with Jada with them. And now she's gone. And I feel like without anybody there, they feel empty. The only way this would work for me personally to see Out the Mud mean something is Andre Chase to be their handler from now on? Yes, let's say Andre Chase gets so pissed off at Connor and Dixon because they refuse to listen to him. They refuse to care that he reaches a point that he turns on them and goes with Lima and Price. I think Price, that's his name, Prince and Price. And I would rather see that than seeing Connor and Dixon with Chase. Because as it stands right now, it makes no sense why he's still with them when constantly they refuse to listen. That's the only way I think this will work. Next match, which will be the 8-man tag. Dark State versus Joe Henry. You got Bourne, you got Slater, and you got Evans. Whoever wins the match, pins somebody, they get the right to choose what position in Iron Survivor Challenge they have. So with Dark State, it's going to be Lennox. He's going to get the opportunity. And since he was a tag champ, he decided to turn that title over to Sugar. Do I care? No. Nope. I don't care that Sugar now is the tag champ and Dion Lennox is no longer champ. I never felt like they should be champs anyway. And now seeing Sugar with the title doesn't really matter to me because I feel like they shouldn't be having it anyway. The only ones that make best sense to have those tag titles would be Leon Slater and Devon Evans. I truly believe they're the best people to get those titles because it would make a more interesting dynamic that you have one TNA wrestler and one WWE wrestler working together defending those titles. But the match went on, and the person who won it, I wasn't sure who would be the best person to do it. I didn't think Joe Henry would be the best person because he really hasn't had much momentum in months. Now, you could say Devon Evans, particularly that he was talking to Ricky Saints before his contract signing, which I'll get to. I didn't think that would be great, but okay. Then I had to think, okay, wait. Who have they been pushing the most right now that meant something? Miles Bourne. And I'm thinking, would they go there? And I said this in the previous video, would they go there with Miles Bourne? Look what you just got. Miles Bourne got the pin. I don't remember who he pinned, but he got the pin. He got the pin, and now he gets to choose where in the lineup in the Iron Survivor that he wants to be. So seeing that they are still pushing him, even if he doesn't win, shows they have confidence in him. But the question is going to be, what will his story be? What will his character be? Have they finally moved away from his hearing problem and then they're focusing on him as a real wrestler? Look, I don't mind Miles Bourne. As I said before, look at him. Let's say that Miles goes to the main roster and he goes up against Randy Orton. You cannot tell me if you look at Randy Orton and Miles Bourne, they don't have physical physiques. They both look like they can be relative to each other because both of them have somewhat of a shortish waist, torso, long arms, thick-ass legs. They both could interchangeably be each other because they both have very similar builds. The question is going to be, for me personally, are they really moving away from Miles Bourne and his hearing problems? Because if they didn't, that's not going to last long. Because he has to be more than that. He's got to have more. So far, they haven't mentioned his hearing in a long time, so that's good. But the question is going to be, are they going to keep doing that if he does win? Now, before we get to the contract signing, I got to say this. Do I care? Do I care about... Let's make this very clear. Do I hate AAA? No. Don't hate it. But it doesn't exist anymore. No matter what anyone says, AAA was purchased by WWE. It doesn't exist as an entity anymore. It's just an extension of the company itself. So I didn't really have much care for it at all beforehand because I don't speak Spanish, so I don't really watch it much. And yes, there is English. I know they do English, but I really hadn't had much interest in it. I'm not a big Lucha Libre fan. It doesn't mean I don't like Lucha Libre. but I'm not a big fan of it. So I haven't really had much interest in it. But then, when you look at AAA, the only thing they're doing is putting any shows they do on YouTube. So what does that tell you about AAA? They're not really thought of much, other than just making sure they bring more people into NXT so they can go to the main roster when they need them. So Mr. Iguana going against Ethan Page for the North American Championship, that segment we saw outside in the car and him jumping out and Ava there, I didn't care. Because I don't care about Mr. Iguana. His story in AAA means nothing to me. It's not meant to be disrespectful and say he can't wrestle and he's a piece of garbage. No. As I said and always will say, it doesn't make a difference where that person is from outside. It doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter two flips. What matters is what the company you are now in, how are they going to present you? What is your character? What is the attitude they want you to have when you're facing other wrestlers? That is the big thing that many people do not understand. They think, oh, he's great. Look at the stuff outside. Outside means nothing. Outside of the company that he's in or she's in means nothing. Because look what happened with Julia. Look what happened when it comes to Stephanie Vaquer. They're liked, yes. But what are they doing? Stephanie has no personality other than just being a wrestler who came from outside that's international. That's it. Look at Julia. Julia had to be teamed up with Kiana James, and has gotten nowhere. They use her international stardom in NXT, which got her nowhere. No character development, nothing. And they teamed her up with James in hopes that she would be more interesting on TV. And when you watch the shows, and I've watched them, there's almost no interest during the match. Maybe there's some people cheering when she comes to the ring, but when they get into the ring, if she's not with anybody interesting, a huge chunk of people stay quiet. So it makes no difference. It counts on what they do with you when you're in the company. And Mr. Iguana with this, that might mean he may go into the main roster eventually of NXT. But really, I don't care. Contract signing. Was this a good contract signing? It was average. It was in the back. It wasn't in the ring. Fine. Hearing that the new ruler is going to show you and destroy you. That's what he said, pretty much. That he is not the same ruler anymore. He's going to show you and destroy you. And Ricky making it very clear, what am I without this title? Who am I without this title? Well, I don't know. Because it's not going to happen, because I will win. And you have gone through everybody but not me. So there is an exception to the rule. And the rule is absolute Ricky Starks. Not exactly worded, but you get my point. Let me give it to you like this. Was the show alright? It was fine. Even though some matches didn't really feel important. They just threw it on there because there wasn't that much left to go into Deadline. There's just not enough story there. There should be. There should be way more story. There should be way more story before the end of the year, but they're winding down. Let's make it very clear. There's a good chance we will not get any new content during December into January. Now, at the beginning of January, we'll get something. But going into December, near Christmas, into New Year's, not going to get much. So this situation is, okay, do I care? Am I hype for Deadline? To an extent, yes, but not completely. Because some of this is very formulaic. And knowing how WWE is now, that they only want to keep the people they think that can really make movement in their merch and interest consistently at a high level. Very little they want to push people that could be possible. They just want to keep people here. I'm like, it's hard to care. This is what WWE has been doing, and AEW for that matter. The only ones that have done something has been TNA. And that's saying a lot. TNA is smaller than both companies, but they've been booking better. Now, mind you, with all the movement that's been going on with TNA, It's a question if they can stay stable and consistent after 2025 into 2026. I know you're going to say, yes, they will. You can't. Because if they are going to AMC, yes, I know they're possibly going to go to AMC. The question is going to be, what are they going to be doing on YouTube? Are they going to be putting any more content on YouTube? Then are they going to continue doing TNA Plus shows? We know they're going to do pay-per-views, but the question is, how are they going to... What is the deal that TNA made with AMC? And can they still have good content compared to working with WWE? Because that's not ending too soon. But it's just me. Peace.